It is Native American Heritage Month. In the continuation of our investigative series on the evidence of an Arawak Taino indiera in Puerto Rico, we have already shown that the Spanish Crown and government were aware of the Puerto Rican indiera from the time of the island's invasion until the year 1788. This is part 3 of our series, so let's continue with the evidence we've gathered. By the year 1799, there were only 17 municipalities in Puerto Rico under Spanish government control. A large part of the island's territory remained mountainous, difficult to access, and in many cases still unexplored, while the island's natural resources were exploited for the benefit of the Spanish Empire. Even so, the Spanish were not settled throughout the entire island of Puerto Rico. By 1799, only 17 of the 78 municipalities that exist today had been established. Therefore, the Spanish could not state with certainty that all indigenous peoples had become extinct. For that reason, the decree issued by the King of Spain prohibiting the use of the term indigenous to refer to Puerto Ricans on the grounds that some had mixed with Spaniards lacks foundation. That stance reflects a deliberate attempt to erase the Arawak Taino identity and the cultural origins of the Taino people, replacing them with a forced Spanish identity of assimilation. Not all Tainos mixed with Spaniards. Many preserved their pure lineage by marrying only among other native Puerto Ricans. Many Tainos joined African communities without any Spanish ancestry, and they are still in Puerto Rico today, preserving their culture. Moreover, much of the reason common Spaniards did not see Tainos in Puerto Rico was because there were no roads that allowed the Spaniards to reach the remote and mountainous areas in the island's interior where they lived. The colonial government also lacked enough men to conduct a complete census in these areas, especially in the more isolated regions. The Tainos also avoided contact with the colonizers to prevent being enslaved or exterminated. For that reason, when officials arrived to conduct censuses, many sought refuge in the mountains and forests to protect their lives and their freedom. Hearing Spaniards and people from the capital claim that the Tainos no longer existed was common, but that belief was based on government propaganda rather than the island's daily reality. The historical evidence we have gathered in this series proves that the government always knew there were ancient native peoples living in Puerto Rico's mountains, in a place they called Las Indieras. This is the evidence found for the year 1812. Ramon Power y Giralt, the man who coined the term puertorriqueño to refer to anyone born in Puerto Rico, was appointed vice president of the Cortes of Cádiz by the Council of Regency in 1812, becoming the first Puerto Rican to hold such a high-ranking political position within the Spanish government. He wrote a report on the island for this court in Spain, in which he presented several documents to the Council of Regency, including reports and representations on the island's condition, economy, defenses, and population. His goal was to advocate for liberal reforms and greater autonomy for Puerto Rico within the Spanish colonial system. However, Power included in his document a group never before mentioned. Although he did not refer to the Tainos as a specific ethnic group, he did mention the Chíbaros de la Montaña, a term unfamiliar to the Spaniards. To understand why Power did not call the natives of the mountains Tainos and instead refer to them as Chíbaros, we must consider Jíbaro is the Taino word used to describe them. It is important to understand that the Spanish crown had been claiming for hundreds of years that the Tainos no longer existed. Ramon Power's approach has been criticized by many, but others consider it highly intelligent. By changing the term used to refer to the indigenous people, he made them visible to the government for the first time as individuals with rights. He used a word of indigenous origin that from that moment on became part of the Spanish language for the first time. Jíbaro is a Taino word meaning man of the mountains. It was not a character invented by Spanish literature. The Jíbaro is the direct descendant of the Taino people, heir to their ancestral wisdom and to their spirit of resistance against the abuse and genocide that took place during the Spanish invasion. He was the one who kept the traditional culture of the Puerto Rican indigenous people alive, preserving their memory and customs over time. When Ramon Power wrote, he referred to the indigenous descendants using the term Jibaros, a word already in use to describe the Taino natives of the mountains. The problem was that new generations were never taught that the Jibaros were the direct descendants of the Tainos. Over time, those generations were indoctrinated to believe that the Jibaros were simply peasants or mountain dwellers without any origin or history. They were sold the false narrative that everyone was mixed with Black and Spanish ancestry. The Spaniards assumed, without concrete evidence, that all the Tainos had mixed with African slaves or Spanish settlers. However, official reports from the Spanish government admitted that the authorities had no access to many remote areas of the island, which made it impossible to account for the entire population. Power mentions the Jibaros on at least 3 key occasions within the document, always in the context of the rural population and their contribution to Puerto Rico's loyalty and economy, emphasizing that they were part of the loyal social foundation but were living marginalized and in extreme poverty. He located them mainly in the mountainous regions of the island's interior and west, such as Utuado, Adjuntas, Lares, Maricao, Yauco, and San German, areas he described, and I quote, as the highlands and remote valleys away from the towns, where they lived in scattered communities, cultivating cassava, corn, and coffee, and serving as militiamen in local defenses. Power writes of these Jibaros, and I quote, "These Jibaros, rough but loyal vassals, have been the bulwark of Puerto Rican loyalty, resisting with their machetes and muskets the external threats, though ignorant of the lights of enlightenment due to the lack of schools and roads." This document makes it clear that the Spanish government never educated the indigenous people, that is, the Jibaros of the mountains. It also showed that they were not provided with any essential services. In the section on economic reforms, he describes them as the hard-working Jibaro, who with his sweat sustains the fertility of the highlands. He proposed their inclusion in free trade to allow the export of mountain products and improve their condition, warning that their extreme poverty was due to Spain's commercial monopoly in Puerto Rico. He again places them in the mountainous heart of the island, emphasizing that their geographic isolation was the reason for their cultural purity and attachment to ancient traditions up to the time he was writing the report in 1815. Ramon Power argued that educating and better arming them would strengthen the Spanish government against rebellions in other American colonies, since these natives had helped the Spaniards of Puerto Rico repel invaders on the island. Power, however, knew his audience. His report and petitions were addressed to the Spanish government, which had been lying for hundreds of years about the existence of the Tainos. Therefore, in order to defend the rights of that population and advocate for their political recognition, Power could not refer to them directly as indigenous. Instead, he used a term they themselves used to describe their identity, Jibaro, a local word that originated from their Taino language. His use of the term Jibaro was not accidental. It was a political and strategic way of naming the Tainos without saying their name, acknowledging their existence and their worth while adapting to the colonial language of his time. However, Power warned that the extreme poverty was a consequence of the commercial monopoly imposed by Spain on Puerto Rico, which created discontent and inequality. Finally, in his conclusion on political unity, Power praised their indomitable spirit inherited from the ancient inhabitants. With a subtle nod to their Taino heritage, without naming it directly, he acknowledged them as the guardians of the Central Mountain Ranges. He affirmed that educating and arming the Jibaros would strengthen the Spanish monarchy on the island, as they were the most loyal to the crown and to the land they cultivated. Ramon Power y Giralt, following the colonial ideology of his time, hinted in his document that the Jibaros of the mountains were, in fact, the descendants of the Taino people, the heirs of a culture that never died, only changed its name. To access this document online, search for the title Memorias y representaciones de Ramón Power y Giralt. Here I'll explain where and how you can consult it. Go to the archive of the Congress of Deputies of Spain at the following web address: https://www.congreso.es. There, the original records of the Cortes of Cádiz are preserved, including the reports submitted by Power. Search under Ramón Power y Giralt, Deputy of Puerto Rico, 1810-1813. The documents are listed as Representations and Reports on the State of Puerto Rico. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like and follow us for the next episode, where we'll present more evidence about the indieras of Puerto Rico up to the 20th century, because the Tainos are still here, and this series is the proof that confirms it. See you next time.